It's the I Hardly Know Her podcast, where we activate the improv power of yes and into our conversations to spark curiosity and expand our perspectives in life. Listen in as we chat with industry leaders who share their stories and skills to help inform and inspire so we can all be better individuals contributing to a better world. And remember, you don't have to be a big deal to do big things. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of the I Hardly Know Her podcast. Today's guest really has opened my eyes to some different things that I hadn't thought about and really understood in the ways we can actually change the world for the better with something that actually tastes delicious. It's a little something called the sweet potato. And this wonderful woman entered my life in the fall while looking to expand her business space through speaking. And it's just been such a joy to learn more about her expertise and really kind of have a little bit of a brighter hope for the future. So welcome to the stage, today's guest, Amy Henson. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's exciting to be here.
Amy, I want you to tell us a little bit about what has even inspired or driven you to where you are today with like how enthusiastic you get about the sweet potato. Let's go back a little bit to your roots of why you are so passionate about that.
Well, actually, all my life, I found a common thread throughout my life has been food. You know, I have really dedicated a lot of my life to food and not in exactly the conventional way. I'm not a chef. Um, I have worked on issues of food insecurity and delivering life-saving assistance for my entire career. So I really then began to open up my eyes about, helping people in a different kind of way with food, also
Yeah.
with food, and really tackling some of our biggest, most wicked problems through a food solution, which is sweet potatoes.
Yeah. Well, I want you to tell us a little bit when you talk about food security, like that's still an issue today in a massive way. You are like a globally traveled, very experienced person in this space. And you said, I know recently you were mentioning there is present day massive problems with availability of food, which seems crazy that we can be in this modern time and still have such a challenge with feeding the human population. Like, what are some of those really present day things in that space that you are still seeing?
Oh, so I started my career in Sudan dealing with the food insecurity 20 some years ago. And now here I am back working on Sudan again. Sudan is right now unraveling before us one of the biggest food security crises of our time. I mean, I don't know if you remember as a kid, we are the world,
Mhm.
this is bigger. This is bigger than that Ethiopia famine. And it's a conflict in Sudan that has made this, roll out, but it's a really critical issue. So I'm right back in the middle of it here, 20 some years later.
Wow. That is so wild. That's why I hope that like inspiring people, we never know who these stories and whenever I like share out a podcast, I don't know who might hear and have like that next step or those next connections because the solutions that you share seem so accessible and so attainable. And that has got to be furious or infuriating to like not have it be an easier process. So tell me a little bit about like what your business does now. So you have launched your own business using sweet potatoes as a resource that helps us in many different ways. So let's unpack that a little bit.
Yes. So a couple of years ago, actually, a friend from my distant past, also 20 years earlier, called me up and said, he was working on this issue of converting sweet potatoes into biofuels. And uh, so he started to tell me about it. Basically, he had delivered some solar panels to South Sudan. It's always kind of also going back to Sudan. Many of the streams in my life go back there. And he was delivering solar panels, and the farmers said, "Oh, wow, now we have not one season, but 3. So what can we plant?" And so he researched and he came up with sweet potato.
Mm.
But then there was a lot of damage, and he was like, "Oh, the damage is, there's so much waste to the sweet potato." And then he started to learn about the biofuels, and so then when we started talking about this, it was really bringing this to the front, bringing it to the forefront, and we're working on piloting and getting funding for really scaling up. So our part of that is really collaboration. My company's part is the monitoring and evaluation and collaboration part of that. And so collaboration is at the heart of what we do. And so bringing the different parties together to tackle these really wicked problems in our world. And sometimes you need to look way beyond your borders. Sometimes you need to look way beyond your present community for those solutions, and maybe even to the people that you think might oppose you.
Mm. Oof. Yeah, easier said than done. Yeah, so how do we have those conversations? What would be like a perfect scenario that you could encourage us to be able to start bringing some different opinions together to have a productive conversation that actually moves things forward?
Well, the oil and gas industry is a perfect example. So we're using sweet potatoes, converting them into bioproducts, biofuels, and bioplastics. So, one of the international conferences on climate change that takes place every year happened in the UAE this year. And much to everyone's dismay, they brought in a top executive from the oil and gas industry. And, a lot of people were, "This is wrong. You can't do this." But he ended up forging a way forward and in some negotiations that they really hadn't reached previously.
Mm.
So we like to, again, that collaboration aspect, bring people together, bring them in, say, "Hey, you want to be the hero? Here, go feed people, help create the biofuels, be the heroes, and come and join us." So, it's bringing people in. So, yeah, that perfect conversation is with maybe those who produce plastics, you know, I mean, coming together and working on these solutions together brings people together and gives them solutions so that you don't have to stay in opposition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love that. What are some examples or one example, I don't know if there how many you might have on the cuff here of some times that this has worked? And I'm also curious, what is the damage? When you're calling it the damage, I'm assuming that's like the vines and the whatever. So tell us like about the parts of it, and then what is maybe an example of how that actually is being utilized in a way that makes you excited because that's on track.
It's the vines and the stems and the peels. That's the damage.
Okay.
I mean, that's the waste product that normally would be a waste product. So that's what we're looking at, bringing people together, to be the heroes. You've got to have, if you can imagine, the amount of sweet potatoes in order to create biofuels. It's just a massive amount. So you have to have a huge yield, and then you have to have people eating the sweet potatoes. And sweet potatoes are sometimes accepted in different countries and sometimes not. So you have to, you might introduce them in certain countries. And then you think about just that whole chain of the product and where you have to have people using the, sweet potatoes, using then the biofuels, creating the the mechanisms, maybe a motorcycle that uses the biofuel, you know, having a
Mhm.
plant that creates it. There's just so many parts of this chain that you have to kind of pull together. So, we are constantly pulling people in for these different pieces.
And why sweet potatoes? What are the different? Because I know I've heard of different types of crops being used, like corn. I mean, that comes to mind, but I feel like corn is like in everything. And also, It's like, yeah, it kind of gets getting a bad rap now for probably good reason. But so why sweet potatoes, or why that a certain variety of sweet potatoes, and what are we seeing that are not as viable or as positive of solutions? Because I know that, yeah, that's one of them is the corn, right?
That's right. And so we see sweet potatoes as really bringing this holistic solution that other crops really don't bring. So corn, actually, when you use it for bioproducts, which it is used for bioproducts, it's not new, but you use the part that you eat in the making of the biofuel. So there's not something to eat. So then you would use up these really valuable land resources and
Mm.
also water resources to make the biofuel. And then if there are people in the surrounding areas that aren't eating, like that's a big problem. And so the amazing thing about the sweet potato is that it you retain the flesh of the sweet potato and you can feed people with it. And the sweet potato itself is so nutritious. The nutritional benefits are really mind blowing. I saw a graph recently and it put sort of sweet potatoes and strawberries up at the top. So they're so nutritional and they take also a third less water than wheat. So that's a big issue. And you can use it as a flour substitute. And actually, there are just so many health benefits, as I mentioned earlier. And that helps with malaria and diabetes and just on and on and on and on.
Mm.
Many of the nutritional deficiencies that people in other countries experience.
Yeah. And what it seems like it's obvious. Like hearing you explain it, it sounds like it should just be a no-brainer. Why is it such a challenge to get people to take action on this?
Yeah, it's about the status quo, and it's about people. You have to change a culture, really. I mean, so many cultures, so many pieces of culture to make this work. Again, you have to. People want to eat these potatoes; they have to be yummy. So there was some testing earlier on where there were. Uh, some people using the sweet potatoes for biofuel, but they would use unpalatable sweet potatoes. Well, that kind of goes back to our corn example, right? Like they're yucky potatoes. Who's going to eat them? But that's the benefit of the sweet potatoes. So they have to be a yummy variety, first of all. Um, and you have to get the yield up. And so you have to make sure that there's enough in this sort of value chain. And then again, you have to have the proper ways to use it, to use the biofuels or to use the bioplastics. And some of the stuff that we're working on is really exciting. We're doing some things that the whole system that comes together makes a kind of a circular economy where there's no waste and
Mhm.
um, everything is organic. And so we're so excited about the way that we're doing it, which nobody else does. And so we're again we've been trying to get this funded and
Mhm.
looking out beyond our networks to say, come and join us.
Yeah, really. I mean, it sounds so inspiring, and really a matter of getting it into as many people's radars as possible so that they can make those connections, right? The more that the masses are aware, the more we can hopefully help push things too, as even just day-to-day citizens in our country trying to do our best. I kind of want to expand out to a bigger picture, because I've loved hearing some of your stories as I've gotten to know you about what really kind of kicked your passion into gear too was becoming a mother, thinking about that next generation. You were already very enthralled with doing these types of good things before. So what were some of those shifts that happened for you personally, and kind of taking it even to this bigger picture of the little things that make such a big difference in trying to protect this earth that we live on?
Yeah, that's so true. So for me, like the biggest point was having my son. I went through 7 IVFs, and yeah, for
Mm.
women out there, freeze your eggs. It's a rough process. And then I had my son. And so I think just constantly, I think about future generations and I think about my son's children and his grandchildren. That's on my mind constantly. And I that was really the turning point of starting to think of what are we handing over? What is the world that we're handing over? And do we just want to, you know, keep saving lives? And we do want to save lives. I mean, don't get me wrong, saving lives is a huge effort and something that we have to do. But if we can start to tackle some of the underlying issues and feed people, we
Mm.
start to hand over a better world. And so I know that, man, the next generation, they are so on this. They are thinking about this all the time. And they think about they think about the world that our generation gave to them.
Yeah.
And so that was just such an important element. And so just, taking steps towards sustainability, the little steps that you can. Um, there are so many products out there that you can start to substitute that are, both more healthy, getting rid of the plastics. What are you using plastics for? And what can you substitute? And then your own carbon footprint. I have to say that I am a meat eater. I am a food lover and a meat eater. But there are, definitely studies coming out that um, eating beef is a higher carbon footprint than other meat. Vegan is a very low carbon footprint. Many people are making decisions based on that. And so there's just many decisions that we have that are very accessible in our daily lives, that we could be doing just to make that difference.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah, it does seem like if everybody just does a little bit and we try to just be more mindful, it should make a pretty substantial difference. And I love what you said too about the next generation. I noticed that with my own kids that they have a lot of curiosity. They seem to have a natural caring, not just with my own kids, but being around lots of kids because I love to volunteer at the school and be around a lot of youth. And they really genuinely seem hopeful and curious and aware and not wanting to like just go with the flow that is kind of how life has been handed to them. And I want you to share a little bit about the Minecraft mod that you did with your business, kind of as we were on the home stretch of some things. I just really loved hearing that. But tell me a little bit about like what sparked that and what kind of positivity came from that experience.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites, and it's the beauty of entrepreneurship, right? You get to do, things that you may not be able to do, but it really came because my son, from a very young age, was a Minecrafter, and I would be in there with him, and we would be in these worlds. We to this day, actually, we this morning, actually, you know, we spend a lot of time in Minecraft, and yesterday we did a moon landing in Minecraft to
Oh,
celebrate
cool.
the recent moon landing. So he spent a lot of time in Minecraft, and so when I started getting into this sweet potato element, I was like, how can I communicate? And so we actually did a mod. It's in a post-apocalyptic world, and you're a farmer, and you have access to growing sweet potatoes and sweet potato seeds, and you open up this journal that you find in the ground, and it's from these scientists from before the fall, and they give you recipes about converting sweet potatoes into biofuels. And so it's been fun. We developed that, and then I took it and launched it in Jamaica at a conference called Invictus, which was a gathering for young women. And the young people just flocked to it and played it, and it was so much fun. And it's been fun to do that with my son. And he's tested it out, and we play in that world, once in a while. So
Awesome.
great.
I love that. And how cool to find something that is a common interest and to like really lean into it and have fun with it. Like I feel like that's a huge opportunity for us as parents to express interest in things, not immediately writing things off as, video games or whatever, because I do see where there's some value. I see where there's some boundaries that need to happen too. And yet, that's the modern world, and there's a lot that can be taught through that kind of technology. So I think it's something that we maybe need to not fear and have a little more fun with.
Well, I always tell him, like, you do know that, like, not too many of your friends' moms are gamers.
Right? I get
It's
a little overwhelmed. My
your mom.
kids play games. They do. My younger ones still are pretty into Minecraft, and I don't really know exactly what's happening, but they love to show me what they've built. They show me the pets they've created that are in their worlds, and I think it's really quite fascinating that they can totally customize stuff. And
I have to tell you one last story. I
oh
have to
yeah,
tell you a story. So, my son and I were always in Minecraft, and my mom is really involved. She's in her 80s. She's really involved in his life, and so she saw us, like, in Minecraft. She was like, "I'm gonna come in Minecraft. Teach me how to do it." So we we brought her into Minecraft, and, all of a sudden, in Minecraft, my son looks over, and he goes, "Mama, why are you eating rotten zombie flesh?" We saw her, and she was sitting there in the game eating rotten zombie flesh. It was hysterical, and we
oh
will
my
never
gosh,
live that down. But I love that my
right.
mom too, you know, she's an 80s 80-year-old techie mama. So
That that is awesome. 3 generations playing together in a game. That is so brilliant.
it was
I
awesome.
love it. Well, this has been super fun. I would love if there is just on a one last note of encouragement to our listeners out there of what could be a simple way. We've talked a little bit about like choices that we can be making. What would be something that anybody could do today to just start shifting things into the right direction? What are some things that we could look at in our homes or just one simple decision to elevate the mindfulness around the better choices around, around all these different things for better resources and helping our sustainability. I don't know, like, is there any standout thing that could be a simple approach for any listener?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that we can do once we start thinking about it. It's just, replace your plastics with some other product. There are lots of sustainable products out there on Etsy, on all kinds of places. We have an Etsy store where we have some we've highlighted. Um, Also, just solar energy is a massive thing. I always make a joke that I have a hybrid Jeep, and in the zombie apocalypse, like in my Minecraft mod, I can actually roll over the zombies and charge my Jeep with the solar energy. So, um, just really, think about your life choices, but there's more simple ones as well. And be mindful of those, and make good decisions. um, get products out there that have a lower carbon footprint, and reduce plastics. Your bags when you're going to the grocery store, all those things that we know and are out there and accessible to us. Just taking advantage of those is a huge
Yeah.
step forward.
Cool. I love it. I like to remind people that it's simple. And then when we try one thing, then we can start adding some more and just bit by bit start honestly enhancing our personal lives. I love feeling like I'm learning and growing and doing better things as I learn what those better options are. So it makes it a lot more attainable and confidence building that I'm trying to do a little something good for the world. Let's try to leave it better than we found it for our kids. But well, I appreciate you taking the time to join us and just opening up a window into something that does not get talked enough about. And yet it is so fascinating and really could be so life changing for many, 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 many people. So thank you for all of the hard work that you do. We'll make sure to put in the show links if you guys want to check some things out, including your Etsy store, which you said you have some recommendations. and your link tree. You can check out our show notes so you can connect with Amy if you have any questions, or if you happen to either work for a company or have some ideas that are coming to mind that might be a great connection, so we can get more collaboration on such an important subject with such a delicious solution. And I just want to thank you again, Amy, for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you. So much fun.
Thanks for tuning in to the I Hardly Know Her podcast. For information about leadership workshops, public speaker training, and all things Kooky Megan, check out improvteamculture.com. We'll catch you next time.